how companies like Infosys and Wipro and so many other companies from nowhere became big corporations. Started building platforms, accepting various projects from various big companies around the world, and outsourcing. All this happened in the last 10 years. Recently, I was in one of these meetings with FICCI because I'm also an active member of FICCI, that's the Federation of the Chamber of Commerce. Now, under FICCI, there is a section which is specific to healthcare. This never existed in the past. This has happened in the last almost 5 to 7 years. Now, what we are trying to establish is why healthcare should be the next frontier. Now, there are a couple of areas where we want to concentrate, and that is where each one of you sitting here will have a role to play. Okay? Now, how is that going to change will depend on all of us here. Now, if you've come with an idea of doing something which will show and generate a change in the next 15-20 years, then you made a significant contribution. Friends, please understand one thing. Healthcare innovation is not overnight, because we are dealing with human beings, we are dealing with sick people, we are dealing with a whole lot of regulatory issues, we are dealing with the government. There are so many variables which are involved. Something goes wrong with your mobile phone, what do? You can just throw it away and buy a new one. Something goes wrong with the patient, you can't throw him away. Right? I mean, we all know, we've all gone through ups and downs. Everybody has fallen sick, or we have people who have had issues and so on and so forth. So, innovation in healthcare is something which is a long drawn process, which means it would take 15 years, 20 years, and at the end of 20 years, don't be surprised, you may not see anything. Okay? After all that investment in time, resources, energy, money, everything, 20 years down the line, you might be back to square one. Because that's the level of risk one needs to take. Because whatever comes out of that research and innovation is going to be extremely important for the mankind. Right? The reason why I'm talking all this is just to instill that confidence in each one of you that this is the platform, this is the base. Okay? The next 10, 15 years is going to be the change. And you will see it happen as you graduate, you come forward, and then you start getting involved in the industry, and that's when you actually see how things will happen. Okay? Alright. Okay, now this is to give you a current status of the Indian growing market. Now if you see the change here in US billion dollars, you must be wondering why US dollars, because historically we do not have any agency in India who is who has been able to give us pretty much authentic data on what the healthcare scenario is in India. Very sad, isn't it? There's so much of IT, so much of communication, but there's no interest. Why? Because healthcare is always considered, even by the government, as a cost. If I spend on healthcare, it is a cost. If I buy a mobile phone, it's an investment. I mean, what logic is this? This is exactly what it's a mindset that we're trying to change. But that change we've seen has already happened in the West. Most of the companies, most of the businesses in the US, Europe, and many other countries which we technically call as developed countries. Okay? And the countries where we are, like India, Russia, Brazil, we are all in the emerging markets. But I don't think India is anything more now. We can't call it an emerging market. We are pretty much emerged. Because technologically we are equally good, or even in certain places probably superior to US and other countries. So if you see the growth, we're talking about 2008. It's been almost $35 billion business. Okay, and 2012, which is just about 4 to 5 years, we've gone up from 35 to 75 billion. And the projected growth in 2017 is 150 billion. Now when you say healthcare market, it consists of everything. It consists of the patient load, it It consists of the equipment business, it consists of medical devices, all put together, what the market is projected to be in the next, after 2017, right? Now, incidentally, there has been some emphasis from the government. There have been schemes which the government has rolled out, like the RSBY scheme and the schemes where they have been able to bring a certain set of population from a completely non-affordable category into the affordable category, okay? And when this happened, especially the RSBY, almost 200 million people out of a population of 1.2 billion had access to basic healthcare. This kind of volume change you will never see in any other country. If you go to the US and say 200 billion people have access to healthcare in India at probably $500 or $600 a family, Americans look at you with a big question mark saying that 200 million people. So what's the population of the US? Most of Americans don't even know where India is, to be honest with you. Okay? So when you say 200 million people, it's almost the size of the US population. Yeah? Okay? What I'm trying to tell you is, see the opportunity. And a huge section of that has now come, which is the growing middle class. Okay? Some of the growth drivers in this business, because when I first started 2 minutes ago, I said this is going to be the decade of healthcare. If anything has to change, there has to be a driver to the change. The change doesn't happen overnight. You know, there has to be certain things. You know, it's like a tsunami. You know, it doesn't come suddenly and go away. It develops, and then over time it happens. Now, these are some of the growth drivers that we have seen in the last 5 to 10 years, which will help move this healthcare industry forward at a much rapid pace compared to what it was 10, 15 years ago. One, of course, I spoke to you, which is the middle class. Rising income. You know, people who used to probably see earnings anywhere between 20, 30,000 rupees a month, today at middle-level management in companies and even in hospital industry are earning reasonably much better than this. Okay, I remember doctors who used to graduate after putting 11 and 12 years of service, joining a hospital at 7,000 and 10,000 rupees a month. This was a couple of years ago. Today that is changing. Today it's probably gone up by double or even more in certain places based on their competencies. Okay? Growing and aging population. Friends, this is good and bad. Because the more technology we bring, the more medicines we bring, the more drugs we bring, we are increasing lifespan. Absolutely. We are increasing lifespan. It's good in a way because we are allowing the person to live longer and probably healthier. But what is the flip side? What is the not good side of it? Absolutely. The economy. The cost of healthcare increases. Okay? So that is a plus and a negative. So that's why the government says, imagine by 2017 or 2018, we have, say, a population of 100 million people who are 90 plus. Who's going to look after them? Where is the money going to come from? So these are some of the challenges that we are trying to address. So anything good also had a bad side. So this is one such thing. Okay? Growing medical tourism. This is a very important factor which we've seen in hospitals day in and day out. How many of you have actually gone and spent some time in hospitals? Some of you are slowly putting your hands up, right? I mean, please don't put your hand up if you're seeing the hospital board from outside. Only if you've been there, you've spent some time, met people there, because it's important for you to know. Because if you go to Apollo, here in Greaves Road, they have a section which deals specifically with medical tourism. You see people coming from Middle East, Europe, and many other places. So this is a very big opportunity for growth. Because we not only get foreign exchange, but at the same time, the hospital also is able to provide treatment which is as good as the rest of the world at a much lower price. So more and more people are coming here. So that's an opportunity for business. And healthcare insurance. RSBI BY is one scheme which has helped to trigger this, a type of insurance, which is the Rajiv Gandhi scheme. Similarly, new initiatives have started coming in. For people who can afford, you have opportunities where you've seen a lot of insurance companies have come into India. So earlier you didn't have other than LIC. Okay, now there are so many options available for you to take care of yourself and your family. So all these are key growth drivers which will help in moving the business from this 75 billion to 150 billion. So this is probably, my guess is, this probably could be an understatement. Okay, could be a conservative approach, but believe me, this can be much better. All right. Now, if we break down the various, sectors, if you see here, infrastructure, pharmaceuticals, and the total bed revenues. Bed revenues is about basically on the number of hospital beds. This is just for your information. You don't have to remember these figures. To give you an understanding of what is the percentage which contributes to the overall healthcare. Infrastructure, bed revenues, and pharmaceuticals still contribute the largest. And that will continue to be there because that is what is used as probably the largest in any healthcare industry. Then you have the other areas which is healthcare outsourcing, medical consumables, medical textiles, clinical trials, path labs, all that which goes on as part of the industry. Okay? Medical equipment is only 5%. Why? Any idea? Cost is one, okay. What else? Sorry?
Reuse of equipment or instruments.
Reuse, okay. You said something?
Investment will give a revenue loss.
Okay, that's one reason. The main reason, friends, why the equipment business contributes just 5% today is basically we don't have people to run them. Very simple. We can give you the best of equipments, 1.5 Telstar MRI, okay, or maybe something better coming in tomorrow, I don't know. Who has the capabilities, who has the training to manage and run them effectively? Can we depend on nurses? No. Can we depend on doctors? No. They depend on who? You guys, we guys, to actually run this. So the more people manage and run this technology over time, and this will become a much bigger business. Yeah, this is just to show you a demand supply in terms of healthcare demand. This is a typical pyramid that we talk about. Primary healthcare is basically common ailments, and then you have these secondary healthcare, the segment that require constant medication, short-term hospitalization. The new concept, if you have seen, which has started coming into India, which is quite common in the West, is called daycare centers. Many of you must have seen NOVA. Yeah? NOVA daycare surgery centers. See, this is one stream where hospitals have identified where if a patient does not have to stay overnight, what is going to be the amount of benefit to the patient and the hospital. So this is an area where people have moved out, where a surgery can be performed in the morning and the patient can go back home at night. So these are some of the new innovations in the hospital industry. Okay? Now tertiary care is nothing but highly specialized care, like cardiac surgeries, open heart, brain surgeries, and so on, which requires a lot more high level of care. Okay? Now from the supplies, the services side, this is the maximum concentration of corporate healthcare is in the urban areas. It's very difficult. I mean, it's sad. If you go to a small village, maybe somewhere in outskirts of Madurai or Trichy or where, probably most of these products will not be available. Most of the technology will not be available. So those are areas which we are hoping that in the future, with more and more people with your capabilities coming in, will go there, and that's the only way you can expand in a country like India, which has got such a large geography. Okay. Semi-urban, of course, highly fragmented and unorganized, and some of the rural areas, I think even primary healthcare is non-existent. I was very excited to see, I think it was 3 days ago in the paper, where there is a company, I forget the name, they have brought in an investment and they are planning to set up almost 220 primary healthcare facilities across India, and all in the rural. Why would somebody bring in that kind of money? Sorry? HCL? Okay. Why would somebody bring in that kind of money? Why? Because they see opportunity. They know that with more and more opening up of investment, more and more people will be able to afford healthcare. And the more people affording healthcare means more jobs, more opportunities for all of us sitting here. Correct? Yeah, this is again the same thing, but this is just to give you an overview of how the concentration of various facilities and clinics are. You know, this is quite self-explanatory. Most of the big corporate hospitals, if you see, they are all in the cities. They are in Bombay, Chennai, Delhi, Calcutta, Bangalore. It's difficult to see Fortis Hospital in probably, I don't know, I've never seen a Fortis Hospital in Trichy. I don't know, why? There are a couple of million people there. They also need help, isn't it? But that will come. That will come over a period of time. And one of the main reasons is we do not have expertise. We do not have people to manage. We do not have people to run those machines. We do not have people who can, build technology to help those customers. So that's one of the reasons. Okay. Secondary healthcare is exactly the same what I told you. It's mostly private practitioners and nursing homes and so on, which are not to that level of technology. And then of course, the rest of them are the private health clinics and district hubs as well. Okay, I'm not going much deeper into this. This is just to give you a brief on per 1,000 population, what is the bed size versus physicians and nurses. Don't get into this much, but it's very pathetic. Okay, for the population that we have, the focus is still on urban India, major cities. That is why you see a lot of people coming from smaller villages to town, to major cities, because they don't have access to healthcare. Okay, this just gives you a brief on what it is. Now, there's a target which the Ministry of Health has put for itself, and that is basically to get to 1,000 population. Right now, it is 1.85 beds to 1,000 population, which hopefully, if we increase it to 2, that will take care of a couple of more million people. But that requires investment again, so it's a vicious cycle. Beds in excess of 1 million needed to reach this ratio, and of course, investment will primarily come from private sector. How much can you ask the government to fund money? And half the time our government says they don't have money. That's all those issues that are going on. So the government is trying to work on what is called the private-public partnership model, where all these large hospitals which are there, now these hospitals are going to be handed over to private sector because they can then put in all the other resources. Like for example, let's take an example of say Government General Hospital. What kind of infrastructure is there when compared to Fortis? Nothing much. So what the government would probably think of doing is hand over the infrastructure to Fortis. So Fortis will manage the whole hospital, put in its investment, bring in its technology. So what does it do by doing that? It opens an opportunity and opens a new door for all of us again, right? Now why I'm saying this again and again is because I want you, each one of you, to see that an opportunity, a window is opening every other day in the healthcare side. A biomedical engineer's job is not just managing materials or not just managing a machine. There's a lot more to it. There's a lot more to it. Okay? Yeah. This is again basically on the health insurance. The amount of insurance that is coming in, because of which the people are able to afford, is also increasing significantly. So it started in 2000 with 1 or 2 companies from US and other countries which came, and today you see where it's going. In 2007 it was about 700 million. So that will continue to grow in big volume. Okay, this is specific to medical devices. I just want to draw a conclusion here, and that is medical devices is a very small part of the entire equipment industry. Now, what is the basic difference? When we talk about equipment, we talk about high-end technology, we talk about CT scanners, we talk about MRIs, we talk about ultrasounds, which are basically capital intensive. Yeah? We talk about 4 crores, 5 crores, that kind of volume. that kind of value which a hospital has to invest. But there are a whole lot of procedures which are done by using products for which go into what is called as an interventional procedure, which is also termed by certain people as minimally invasive. There is a difference. It's not exactly minimally invasive. It's as good as a small puncture. Okay. Now all these products which go into this area, they are technically termed as medical devices, and as per manufacturer's standards, they are all single-use medical devices. In a country like India, you can't force that down because very often you have a lot of people who can't pay. So hospitals reuse these products based on the skill of the physician. If the physician is very good, a product like a guide wire, he can use it 10 times, 15 times. Who benefits out of that? The patient. Okay. Now, what you see here is basically some companies and what the opportunities are out of this. Medtronic is a very big company in the medical devices business, and they are into interventional cardiology, interventional radiology, and so many products, and they are all endovascular. Endovascular means products which are used internally in the vascular area, like the heart, blood vessels, and so on and so forth. Baxter again is there, and Trivitron, Dr. Bhuneshwar is here from the company. We've got Philips, and there's so many companies. I just wanted to put some names here. Okay.